Assalamu alaikum student. Once again we are with our next topic, Muslim in South Asia, and this is our national learning. So today we are going to learn that after the end of this lesson, the learning outcomes will be described the causes and impact of the conquest of Sindh by the Arab, and brief introduction of the Ghaznavid Dynasty and trace his expedition. Describe the Ghauri's military conquest and the establishment of the Muslim rule in South Asia. Briefly introduce the Slave Dynasty. Describe the Khilji Dynasty and his reign and the reign of Alauddin Khilji, and briefly describe the invasion of Tamour's and Sayyid dynasty. Trace the Mongol invasion and the defense policies of the Delhi Sultans, and then briefly explain the role of Tughlaq and Lodhi explain and the factors leading to the decline of the Delhi Sultanate. So first of all, we like to see Muhammad bin Qasim in South Asia or in Sindh. So in 711, a young Arab general, Muhammad bin Qasim, who was a nephew of Hajjaj bin Yusuf, Umayyad governor of Iraq, led an army of 6,000. The reason was that some pirates had plundered the ship carrying widows and children to Arab. The Caliph protested to Raja Dahir of Sindh, but his reply was that he had no control over the pirate, and Hajjaj bin Yusuf decided to declare the war and set an army to fight Raja Dahir. And Raja Dahir was defeated at Dibal, and Muhammad bin Qasim sent on the conqueror of Naran, Sehwan, Brahmanabad and Multan. This era came under the administration of the Umayyad Khilafat, who sent its governor to rule it. So now we see the rule of Muhammad bin Qasim in Sindh. Muhammad bin Qasim set up a Muslim state in Sindh and gave the status of dhimmi or protected people to inhabitants of Sindh. This meant that they had to pay a tax called jizya, and to the governor. And apart from this tax, of dhimmis were free to practice their religion and had all the privilege of the state. And Muhammad bin Qasim, just and tolerant ruler, was welcome, and people were drawn to Islam, especially because there is no caste system in this faith. The people of Sindh were very happy from Muhammad bin Qasim. After him, when Umayyad Khilafat weakened, the Arab governors continued to the rule in Multan and Sindh as independent rulers. The Ghauri Dynasty ruled from Mansoura in Sindh for the next 300 years. Now, after the Muhammad bin Qasim, in nearly 300 years after the conquest of Muhammad bin Qasim, there was no Muslim invasion of the subcontinent. In the 10th century, India was invaded again by the Muslim, not by the Arab, but this time the Turk, who came from the northwest through the Khyber Pass to conquer and later establish their rule in India. And this man was Mahmud of Ghazni. Mahmud of Ghazni, Sultan, expanded his kingdom up to Isfahan in the northwest and India in the east. He made 17 invasions into India, including one against Shahi kingdom in the north. His lightning attacks were to gain the wealth of subcontinent, and he raided Mathura, Tansir, Kanauj, Nagarkot, and finally the temple city of Somanath. That's why he got the title after the breaking of that idol of Somanath. He got the title the idol breaker because the famous floating idol of the Somanath was a cast metal statue which appeared to be floating in mid-air. This was because of a true strong magnet set above and below the statue. The fact became known when the idol was broken. And at the time of Mahmud of Ghazni, He made Ghazni into a beautiful city, and many madrasas, mosques, libraries, gardens, hostels for travelers, and bridges were constructed. And Mahmud is also known for his patronage of art, knowledge, and famous scholar uh, Al-Biruni. After Mahmud of Ghazni, Mahmud of Ghazni transformation of Ghazni with the libraries, mosques, gardens, famous poet Al-Firdausi and famous scholars Al-Biruni was with him. Now see the expedition of Mahmud of Ghazni in 998 to till his death 1030. Mahmud of Ghazni when expanded his kingdom, he, as I told you, he got the title of the idol breaker, the temple of Somnath, and he brought with himself uh, a person, Abu Rehan al-Biruni, had come with Mahmud of Ghazni to India, and he stayed on and learned the Sanskrit language and Hindi religion and philosophy. Kitabul Hind is an informative book that is written by the al-Biruni, and it is all about the geography and history of the India. Al-Biruni was that person who first told us about the phases of the moon. So he was a scientist as astronaut, astronomy in knowledge he had also. In the book of Shahnama, Firdausi written about the ancient history of Iran from the time of the creation of the world up until the Islamic conquest of Persia. After that, Mahmud of Ghazni appointed his governor Shahabuddin Ghauri, left in subcontinent, is enrolled on the behalf of Mahmud Ghazni. Okay, over 100 years after the death of Sultan Mahmud and breakup of his empire, Ghazni was captured in 1173 by Shahabuddin Muhammad Ghauri from the state of Ghaur in Afghanistan. The Ghauri Turks were also the Central Asian nomadic background, and Muhammad Ghauri became the ruler of Ghauri Dynasty. In the same year, he, along with his capable general Qutbuddin Aibak, invaded India and seized the Muslim towns of Lahore, Multan, Ouch, and Peshawar. After the death of Muhammad Ghauri, as he had no son, he used to say that his slave would be inherited his empire. In 1206, when he was assassinated at Lahore, Qutbuddin Aibak became the first Sultan of Mamluk dynasty. Mamluk is an Arabic word, and it means slave. Established in Delhi, which ruled India for the next 84 years. Now see the slave dynasty. So first we see about the Qutbuddin Aibak. Qutbuddin Aibak ruled for only 4 years, and he died in an accident while playing polo in Lahore and is buried there. After his death, Qutbuddin Aibak was succeeded by his son-in-law Shamsuddin Iltutmish, who was invited by the 40 nobles to take over the throne of Delhi. He set up a good administration with proper taxation and official appointees for the task. He completed the Quwwatul Islam Mosque, Qutub Minar, and began, and this is the map of the slave dynasty from Qutbuddin Aibak. So we are talking about the Shamsuddin Al-Tutmash He was fond of architecture, so that's why he completed all the constructed buildings which remained by Qutbuddin Aibak. He built college and many roads for which forest had to be cut down. After this is one of the famous building, Qutub Minar, as well as Aliya Darwaza. When Al-Tutmish died, his son Ruknuddin Pharaoh succeeded him, but he proved to be an incompetent ruler. So the noble asked his daughter Razia Sultana to take the throne. She had mastered the art of the government and leadership under her father and had all the qualities of a monarch. Unfortunately, the intrigues at a court made her position weak, and finally she married Altunia, the governor of Batinda, and marched on Delhi to retake it. She was defeated and was killed along with Altunia by outlaws when fleeing from battlefield. After a number of weak rulers, the 40 nobles decided to put Nasiruddin, Muhammad al-Tutmish's youngest son, on the throne. He proved a good sultan who ruled well for 20 years, from 1246 to 66, supported by his able deputy Balban. Nasiruddin Balban encouraged learning, set up colleges, and respected saint people and scholars. Baba Fariduddin Ganjshakar and Sheikh Bahauddin Zikriya were two notable Sufi saints of Nasiruddin Mahmud's time. So, when Nasiruddin died, Balban became the first sultan. He had proved himself a capable administrator as well as military leader by successfully driving back to the Mongol from Punjab. As a sultan, he first strengthened the army of his kingdom and to keep the Mongols away, crush the revolt and control rebellious nobles. He also reduced the power of 40 nobles as they had started to challenge the Sultan's authority. When the governor of Bengal, Tughlaq Khan, revolted, Balban personally led to attack against the rebellion in which Tughlaq Khan was killed. The Sultan had to face further attack by Mongols, and his son Muhammad was killed in one such attack. Balban did not survive long after the death of his son. So this is the map of the Slave Dynasty. First, in dark maroon you can see the size of the kingdom under the command of Qutbuddin Aibak. Then the red one is by Al-Tutmish, and then by Balban, the pink one, and then after the death of Balban, the Slave Dynasty shrinkened. Okay. The Delhi Sultanate passed from the Turks to Afghans when the Khilji took over. The Balban's weak successor, Kayokabad, was replaced by Malik Feroz Khilji, who took the title of Alauddin Khilji. The Khilji were said to be Turks who had settled in Afghanistan. So we can say that Alauddin Khilji was the founder of Khilji Dynasty, and this is the kingdom of Khilji Dynasty. After Jalaluddin had barely ruled for 6 years, when his nephew and son-in-law Alauddin Khilji had him murdered and became sultan. First of all, Alauddin organized a strong army which he felt was necessary for extending his kingdom and defending it from internal and external threats. Internal threat was Rajputs and rebellions of his uncle Jalaluddin Khilji, and external threat was the time to time attacks of Mongol. Alauddin Khilji was a strict ruler, but after Alauddin Khilji, when the Khilji Sultan became weak, the governor of Punjab, Ghazni Malik, took the throne of Delhi under the title of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq with the consent of the nobles. He ruled for 5 years as a king and good administrator, and he was killed in an accident, and his son Muhammad Tughlaq, as you see in this picture, succeeded him a rule and ruled for 26 years after him. Muhammad Tughlaq stands out as a controversial figure. Muhammad Tughlaq had ideas beyond his time. He issued token currency in copper, as you see in this picture, an experiment that had already been done in China, where paper currency had been issued. This experiment was a failure as people started to make copper coin in their homes and exchange them for silver currency for the treasury. His treasury became empty and he had to face difficulties in running expense for the administration. The second thing, as you see in this map, that Muhammad Tughlaq decided to change or shift his capital from Delhi to Dawlatabad in Upper Deccan, almost halfway between Delhi in the north and Deccan in the south. He felt his large empire could be better be controlled from there, and most of the people moved out of Delhi, and further they will keep safe his capital from the attacks of Mongols. But a lot of people was died during the travel on the way of Dawlatabad. Delhi was left empty, and Dawlatabad could not maintain the new population as it had no fresh water supply. This unsuccessful experiment had made Muhammad Tughlaq very angry, and he punished his official for not carrying out his plan properly. There was rebellions and droughts and famine caused further unrest in his reign. He died in 1351 on his way to Thatta to put down a revolt. In this picture, as you see, the yellow gown person who is bowing in front of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. This person is Ibn Battuta, a Moroccan traveler, came to India in 1333. He had started his travel at the age of 21 and journeyed through Africa in Asia. Trained as a Qazi or judge, and he stayed at the Tughlaq courts for 7 years as the chief Qazi. He has left an account of Muhammad Tughlaq's reign, and he refers to him as the most humble of men and one who is inclined toward doing what is right and just. After the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, his cousin Feroz Shah Tughlaq had gained a lot of experience in his administration, became the next sultan. He was a good at warfare, but his greatness lies in the fact that he looked after the people welfare. He opened colleges and places of learning were attached to mosques. Jalaluddin Rumi lectures were on Islamic law in his time. 300 Sanskrit works were translated into Persian, which preserved the culture and history of the Hindus. He was fond of architecture and he built canals. Further, these canals were kept to extend by the British. In addition, 150 wells were dug and wheat and sugar cane and fruits were grown. And then he built and constructed 5 towns, 3 palaces, 200 caravanserais, 100 bridges, 1200 gardens, 10 monumental pillars, and 1 public bath. He also had Ashoka's pillar brought to Ferozabad from Ajmer. His reign is documented in Tarikh-e-Feroz Shahi. He also wrote his autobiography, Futuhat-e-Feroz Shahi. And Feroz Tughlaq died at the age of 80, and after him the dynasty came to an end, and it could not defend itself against the Mongols' invasion. And this is the red arrow is the Mongol invasion. Tamour was of a Turk and Mongol lineage. He was born in 1353 at Kush, 50 miles south of Samarkand, a brilliant military leader. He became the head of the Chogtai Turks and started to bring large areas of Central Asia under his command. Tamour admired his ancestor Chinggis Khan and, like him, had never been defeated in battle, and he was ambitious and now looked toward the India for the conquest. In 1398, Tamour stood at the gate of Delhi and routed the army of Sultan Nasiruddin Muhammad Shah Tughlaq. His soldiers broke the Delhi's walls in 3 days. Tamour's invasion left India plundered and devastated. Tamour, like Sultan Muhammad of Ghazni, took Indian treasures, artists and craftsmen back with him to Samarkand, which grew into a beautiful city. The Sultanate at Delhi lost its power and broken into many small states. It was left to the Sayyid and Lodhi dynasties to continue for another 125 years. Sayyid Dynasty. Under the Turks, Malik Khizr Khan, a Sayyid who had been appointed as governor by Tamour, the Delhi Sultanate had shrunk and became confined to just Delhi and some areas surrounding of the cities. His son Mubarak Shah declared himself the Sultan and ruled till 1450. The Sultanate was taken over in 1451 by Dehli Lodhi. So this was the founder of Dehli Lodhi was the founder of Lodhi Dynasty. He was the commander-in-chief of Sayyid who declared his independence and founded the Lodhi Dynasty. Behlul was from an Afghan clan, and during his time, many Afghans settled in India. He expanded his kingdom to include the Punjab, Mewar, and Ganges Yamuna Doab further east. He was kind and good ruler, and his reign lasted nearly 40 years. Behlul Lodhi died in 1489, as I show you the timeline in the previous slide, and was succeeded by his son Sikandar Lodhi. Sikandar Lodhi, as described by his court historians, was believed to be the wisest, most hardworking, dedicated, and far-sighted sultan to sit on the throne of Delhi. He moved his headquarters to Agra and worked hard at improving a lot of common people. He was interested in learning and invited scholars to his court and encouraged the completion of books of medicine, Madun al-Shifa, and music, Lehjate Sikandar Shah. After the death of Sikandar Lodhi, because Sikandar Lodhi had faced many reform movement took place in Hinduism. One movement was called Bhakti movement, and its leader was Kabir, who inspired many followers by his dedicated lives. Another Bhakti preacher in Bengal was Chetiana, who led many Bengalis to follow his path. And Guru Nanak in Punjab rejected the caste system and founded the Sikh religion in the time of Sikandar Lodhi, and which was also influenced by the doctrine of Islam. Sikandar Lodhi died in 1517 and is buried in Lodhi Gardens in Delhi. So after Sikandar Lodhi, Ibrahim Lodhi, the last Sultan of Lodhi, had faced rebellions from his governors in Bihar, in Punjab, and Rajput Rana Sangha of Mewar. This weakened his control over Sultanate, and his people were also unhappy with his rule. When he tried to punish Daulat Khan, governor of Punjab, Daulat Khan invited Babur, the king of Kabul, to save him from Ibrahim Lodhi. In April 1526, Babur's army faced Ibrahim Lodhi's men on the plain of Panipat. By the end of the day, Ibrahim Lodhi had been defeated and killed in the battle. The Delhi Sultanate came to an end without fulfilling the dream of ruling an all India empire. Now it would be left to another Turkish dynasty, the Mughal, to establish that empire in India. Now, student, let's know the causes of the downfall of the Lodhi dynasty. It's lost power because the big-scale emigration of Afghan in India during Lodhi rule. Second, Sikandar was a staunch Sunni ruler who lacked religious tolerance. Then Ibrahim Khan Lodhi, after the War of Succession, always busy with his eldest brother Jalaluddin. Then dissatisfaction among Afghan nobles who supported Jalaluddin. These nobles was brutally behaved with Ibrahim Lodhi. Failure of administration system and blocking the trade routes, which resulted in complete degeneration of the empire's economy. Then, danger and threat posed by the Rajput kings on Lodhi arms. After that, bad economic condition and fast draining treasures due to continuous war of succession thus weakened the dynasty. Moreover, internal wars which weakened the empire and Lodhi dynasty were taken over by Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur, who established the oneness of the Mughal Empire in India after defeating Ibrahim Lodhi in Battle of Panipat in 1526. The Lodhi Empire was now getting west, but it lacked in communication means, which resulted in waste of time and efforts. People started losing faith on the competency of the emperor. Then numbers of the slaves during this period was rising, and the treasury were getting burdened in the upkeeping of these slaves. Then the other cause is there was no fixed law for succession wars. Anyone could wage a war and take over any kingdom. Then the next cause of the decline is that the greed and incompetency of noble further lead to a weak and defective military organization. Then we see that the continuous fall of the people's confidence in this military types of a government further mitigated the dynasty. Then regular invasion by the Tamour weakened the military capabilities. Then the stern rule of Ibrahim Lodhi gave him many secret rivals amongst themselves, the main one being his uncle, the governor of Lahore, who betrayed Ibrahim to take revenge of the insult influenced by the Ibrahim. Doing so, he invited Babur to invade India. and Babur defeated Ibrahim Lodi in the Battle of Panipat. So these were the causes of the downfall of the Lodi dynasty. I hope you understood the topic. Thank you very much.